have a
This
fairly-
agenda, nothing else.
Hey, before we get started, either of you familiar with Douglas County PhD?
About,
No.
and,
Just wondering if you're friends. Okay,
so you have any connections? No.
connections.
What you need?
Variance, as usual.
Something. Tip. Tip.
Just a simple little thing. Yeah. All right, I'd like to call to order the City of Villa Rica Historical Preservation Commission. At this time, I'd like to call for a motion to adopt our agenda for this evening.
I so move.
I'd like to have a second, please.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, the motion has been adopted. Also, we'd like to move next to the approval of the minutes. I'd like to get a motion for the approval of the minutes at this time.
Motion to approve the minutes.
May I have a second?
Second.
For those all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The approval for the minutes motion has been accepted. We'll now move on to public comment. I believe, see, we have some people here this evening. We have a limited time, which I believe is 3 minutes, I believe, for a presentation. Please state your name and your address here, and please come forward to the podium. Well, looks like we're going to move on.
Intro.
At this time, we're looking for reports for the officers of board from standing committees. From Main Street is Christopher Pike in this evening. I don't see him.
No.
Your hair has grown out a little bit. I hope I'm better looking,
We'll tell him.
I am Janet Chumley, I'm the Main Street manager. How's everybody doing tonight?
Fine, thank you.
Very good.
Good.
Thank you.
I just have a update for us as far as we are hosting Economic Development and Tourism Week this week. I hope a lot of you have seen that via our social media sites and the city website. Last night, we hosted the State of Main Street, just kind of gave folks this update of what's going on for Main Street, what we have, what we did at 17. Today was Small Appreciation Day, so we did a grand opening at the antique store down here, Village Treasures,
Mhm.
and then Lost Cowboys was our gold business of the week, which we do that weekly. Tomorrow, we are hosting an elected officials industrial tour. Sugar Foods had to delay their tour because they've had some mechanical issues at the office, but we will be doing a Luco Tool Corporation tour at 1 o'clock for our elected officials. Thursday, May 10th, we're doing a State of Tourism at 6 p.m. at Pine Mountain Old Museum. I encourage everybody to come to that. We'll have a lot of great guest speakers and talk about the state of tourism and the tourism. People don't realize the importance of it or the impact to the city, but it actually brings you quite a bit of money. So that's an important process. So if you guys come to that at Pine Mountain Old Museum. And then Friday, May 11th, we're doing a elected official city tour to Duluth, Swanee, and Sugar Hill, and those folks there, their elected officials will host us and kind of give us an idea of how they develop their city and why it does so well from a financial standpoint. Kind of gives everybody a visual. I'm a visual person myself, so I like to see visually. You know, it's one thing to see it on paper, another thing to see it visually. So we'll be doing that this week. Any questions for me? Hope you guys can join us for some of this week. Very excited.
Thank you much for the
Thank you.
invitation. Thank you. All right, next we have a report from the comprehensive plan update.
Good evening, Lenny Lyons, Plan Design Specialist. Just a quick update on our comp plan. About 2 weeks ago, we held our first public meeting of our comp plan at Golders Park. Went pretty well. The attendees had the opportunity to do an interactive assignment with our land use maps, looking at some things they would like to identify in the future as far as improvements to the city, areas that for redevelopment say. I wasn't able to attend, I was out of town, but, we're still getting more, survey responses. We actually met with our comp plan team today, at City Hall to kind of, do just some in-house looking at our future land use maps, our existing land use, and get ready for the big rollout, which is coming probably the next 3 months. Well, the plan is to have this adopted and ready by October 2018. So we are moving a little bit faster at this point, getting everything together. The steering committee will be meeting in the next few weeks, and we do anticipate having about 2 more public meetings before the one more public meeting, and then the rollout, and then it will come to planning commission for approval, and then to city council for adoption. So that's pretty much it. You guys have any questions? Yes, sir.
On the final approval, does that go through the city council?
Yes, it has to be approved and adopted by the city council.
And you're probably looking at end of summer for a presentation to them, is that kind of where you're at?
July, August.
Okay. Perfect.
We have to also transmit it to ARC, to Atlanta Regional Commission, and everything like that. So there's a lot of paperwork in between that point to get it from where we are now and getting it ready to be adopted. And we'll be providing updates on the website as we move along. Semi-smooth sailing thus far.
I would add that as a member of the steering committee, being able to see what was going on, not only at our meeting, but then at the Thursday meeting, it was really, really very impressive to see all the people in the city who had a voice, and not only the business people, but the other people as well. And yeah, I encourage more people to attend the city one as well, because it was great.
We do enjoy and engage by
Mm.
Thank you.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait.
back it up.
Walking trails.
Walking trails. I'm on that steering committee, but that's really more Vicky Coleman's. She's spearheading that campaign. There is a meeting tonight
Okay.
for steering committee members.
Okay.
There was 3 weeks ago a first round of public meeting with the public. Tonight, the steering committee I believe is going over some of the public comments and trying to adjust
Okay.
some parts of the plan.
Okay.
Based on the feedback that was received at that first public meeting. That one was a very passionate crowd and passionate and engaged. So, that process is moving forward. I'm not sure of the timeline on that, but I know it's pretty close to the timeline for the comp plan. We're working closely with Vicky to make sure that the recommendations from the trails plan is also incorporated into our comp plan, so that community development is aware of it. So when we do get projects, that we can look at those projects in relation to where the trail is proposed, and making sure that we keep that on the mind of the developers in the community as we move forward throughout the process.
It seems that the trail plan actually kind of starts, crosses, and intersects right in downtown. And we need to kind of make sure that we're all in the loop.
Would you like for me to invite Vicky to come and talk to you guys about it? I don't want to speak on her.
No, at a future meeting, yes, that'd be fine.
I'll
Yes.
make note of that. And
Yeah,
I'll ask
that'd
you.
be fine, yes.
Right.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next order of business is reports of the special committees.
We don't have anything.
Do we have any of those available for this evening?
No, there are none.
All right. Move on to old business. First is a presentation of the historical plaque for 303 Rockmart Road.
That was actually done last week.
I thought it was.
Last meeting.
Okay. I didn't know if we were giving out 2 this year, so.
Front door, back door.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to the nomination of the historical plaque for 507 Main Street. Do we have
Mr.
a-
President, it's 507 Main Street.
I was going to ask the same question. How did that
What is
end up?
507 Main Street?
Well, actually, there's an order of correction. in new business from last meeting, 507 Main Street was voted and passed to place that the marker so be placed on 507 Main Street. 507 Main Street is the house that burned about a year ago, and the owner and the consultant for the contractor was here numerous times asking about codes and they've moved in. So actually, unfortunately, I think that's a repeat. So we'll mark that as completed.
Do we happen to have the nomination from them? I know that you recommended it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to assume that was
Okay.
was an accepted position from the board to promote the 507 Main Street. And I'm going to assume that they're have rebuilt the.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
they're-
have, and I believe they've already moved in.
They're in,
I did
yeah.
notice that they had painted and completed the porch,
Yeah.
Okay.
which looks mostly good.
Okay.
I didn't care for the color choice on
Yeah.
one of the colors, but,
Yeah.
you know, that's,
Understood. All right. That thank you for clearing that up. Thank you. All right. Next.
So we just got to make sure that the plaque is, if we don't have one, that we get it ordered and have it made available to them. Yeah.
There may have been a misunderstanding on my part. I thought all business was a recap of what happened at the previous meeting. That's what I gathered from the previous agenda.
No, it's open issues that are coming forward to us.
I apologize.
That's okay.
You're fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Well, first of all, on 507, since we've made the nomination and approved the nomination for the plaque, how that process is that basically? Do we handle that as a board, or is that handled by the city?
That's us.
It's administrative as far as the application goes. You guys make the nomination and then we receive the application. I sent the one to
Okay.
Marjorie. I contacted her on
Okay.
the phone and sent one via mail.
Yeah.
She was gonna come tonight and I thought we were gonna present it to her, but it doesn't appear that she's here.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Thank you. That's
Okay,
why
we'll catch up with her. Yeah.
I thought that's how it worked, but I didn't know if there had been any changes. Okay. All right. Next thing we're moving on to is historical markers brochure.
We talked about that last time as a recommendation for the future for tourism because many of our historical markers are either with the state or they're with the city of Billerica, and not everybody knows what is on there. They can't read them all the time. So the recommendation is that for the future, as we're looking at the tourism and planning, to make a brochure so that they would be available to people to actually see what what those historical markers are saying and where they're located, because we have so many new people coming in. We don't know that.
And I didn't mention it last month, but and it's something we probably would need to discuss with the tourism board. But I would love to see us also have a historical walking tour app. There's lots of apps available for different cities, and I'd love to do that with along with the brochure.
Yeah.
So I've actually talked to a friend of mine who's an app developer, and he thinks it can be done pretty easily. But obviously, that's something that would be cross-board with other committees within the city.
Is that something that we need to try to slide into the comprehensive plan at this point, since it's not completed?
I think so.
Yeah.
Could I ask that we get 2 members of the commission to actually try to approach the comprehensive plan committee to see how we could engage this into the plan?
And actually, I did meet with Chris and have mentioned before what possibilities we could do along those lines. And they're open to it, but yes, it will be part of a discussion in the future for that.
Well, that would be, I think, a tremendous asset for that, for the tourists, particularly the walking tours here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Lived here for many years, and I'm still seeing new things every day.
Me too.
Well, the added part of it is that I had mentioned this to Chris and to many others before, is that in going to other cities and small towns and large towns, that part of the fascination with a unique city is having something for the people who are tourists to look forward to and come back to. And I use the example of one that was in Austin, Texas, and one that was in South Carolina, where people saw little metal or copper, bronze, whatever, figures of a mouse that had something to do with them. So my suggestion to Chris and to others was that because we're looking at the gold mine having a gold nugget, and we are a pioneer city besides we are a pioneer city. And wouldn't it be neat with these historical markers and to have on Main Street different spots where one of these could be located, and then people would be able to see not only on the brochure and on the walking tour what was important and why we are important and should be remembered and coming back to. But at least if they were able to find all of them, and there happened to be maybe 6, 7 of them, that then they could go to a business and end up getting a 5 or 6, 10% discount, because they would show that they actually did find them all, and just as some little catch to keep the tourists coming back.
It's a very good point, and it's time proven in many communities,
Mhm.
all the way around us. So I agree. All right, at this time, let's move on to the baptismal pool off of Spring Street. And then we had discussion to some level about this particular project or the renovation of this project, and it basically is centered around actually who owned it right now. At that point, I think we were kind of waiting to get a more clear direction from the city, to see what direction we can follow as far as making recommendations for the restoration. Is that all in line with what we're doing right now? So,
That's where I'm at.
The members of the board are familiar with that. Many of them have come down to see it. That along with the next one for the first hospital in Billerica. So I think that probably those are still just talking points for the future, to see what we can do. Basically because the first hospital is now a church and the baptismal fount is on private property. And so it's a matter of getting permission from that owner to maybe take over that baptismal fount that we know was done around 1880. And we do have a couple of people in town who remember when they were teenagers riding by and seeing people being baptized in that.
Totally off the wall, but just as a FYI, Mon Respect, he was born at the first hospital. So we still have some original residents here in town.
So was my wife.
well, those two tend to intertwine very seamlessly together. I think that we're going to have to take the initiative and take someone on the council or the commission to kind of shepherd this to the city and see what direction we want to go with it, and to utilize their tutelage to allow us to see what parameters we have or what recommendations we can make. If nothing more, we can at least be a cheerleader on the side, for lack of a better term. So does anyone want to take the initiative to talk to the city council?
Mm-hmm.
Do we know whose district it is?
Yes.
Good question.
No. 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 Carter. Carter. Knocked on the doors. No. That side of the street is. The other side is Marshman.
Jeff Matthews is the owner of the property where the baptismal pool is. And I'm not sure about the hospital, the old hospital.
Yeah, I don't know there. I didn't look.
I'll touch base with Mr. Matthews on that.
I think at one time the city manager said that if we could figure out and talk to the people who owned it to see if it would be possible to even buy that one piece of stretch where it happens to be located, so that if the city had enough money to do that, they would do that in the future.
Donation.
Or a maintenance lease on a period of time.
Mhm.
So,
Something like that. Okay.
But due to the legalities of that, I caution us to support it, but let the higher pay grade kind of figure out the direction on that one.
Mhm.
So, all right, let's move on to new business. First order in new business is the certification of appropriateness from Mr. Rex Camp. I understand we have his representative in.
Come up. Come up.
I don't really got anything to say. Wait, Katie goes.
That's right.
Takes first.
Yes.
That's right.
Right. I'm sorry.
We'll read.
Present it first.
We'll get it.
I just want to leave this for those.
Apologize for the
We'll
confusion.
get it. We'll get it.
Their new batteries that are in here.
Get it to run green. Sure, boss.
This you don't have to put your glasses on to go see it, correct?
Good thing about those glasses he's wearing, it looks like they're pretty easy to find.
And hard to lose them.
You know, you could get like you have to wear in your room, bar, table, kitchen.
We got a drawer full of them. Honey, why'd you buy new ones? What's wrong with these in the drawer? Forgot. I'll tell you what. Will it? Will it? Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay, so first up, we have Rex Hance. He's the owner of 209 Main Street, land lot 161 of the 6th District in Carroll County. He is proposing to put up metal awnings. He had previously had aluminum awnings put up many years before, and they fell down during a storm, and now he wants to have some metal awnings put up in their place on the facade of the building. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. As mentioned in the commercial design standards, awnings should be attached to mortar joints instead but building masonry to avoid damage to original structure. Metal awnings be replaced with canvas or fabric awnings with matte finish that coordinate with the rest of the district as prescribed by the Downtown Commercial Design Guidelines Handbook and the Unified Development Code, which are listed below. So we have Barbara Daniel here to speak for the applicant. He was not able to make it. She said that he had these for you guys, so I'll pass them around.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I believe at this time we can have some representation and description of the product. Margaret, you have a few minutes?
I'm used to being over there, not here. The only thing that he really wanted me to emphasize is that, you know, he's putting up a better quality awning that was there before that storm blew it off. And then he's going to take down the one awning that's left so that it's one cohesive looking awning all the way across.
I have a couple of concerns. In looking at what we have as far as Billerica's historical preservation and the requirements that we have, and knowing that we've got two consulting firms right now dealing with historical preservation for downtown Main Street. And I also know that the change is not an event. Change is a process. And when we're taking a look at color and the fact that the state of Georgia does not go with metal, that we're looking at other things, I really appreciate the fact that he wants that on there. But I'm wondering if we're not moving a little too quickly. I would like to see more of what we're doing with the downtown groups that we have, as far as what is it going to do for keeping us all unified with colors, with the same type of thing. When I'm taking a look at going downtown, and yes, I've only been here since 1988, so I've only got 30 years here. So I'm not a new person in here. On the other hand, I've come from cities and that moved too quickly and tried to do something. I mean, the town that I came from in Florida was a wonderful town, but it took us an hour in order to find and be able to get to the cemetery where our son was buried because of all the growth that went on and the hodgepodge that was in there. I don't want to see that happen to Villa Rica. I think that if we take a look at what the recommendations are from the city and from the people in general for what we want to do and where we want to grow, and keep in mind that everything should be the same. Just because something is there before does not necessarily mean that it has to be there. Yes, we want to go to the future. And even Santiana says we need to go to the future, but we also have to respect the past. And so keeping in mind the awnings that are important, I would like to see us get together and take a look at being able to unify that whole idea, to keep it so that people will say, I want to come to Villa Rica again. Oh, it was a nice town, but, you know, it's kind of like a hodgepodge of whatever. If we had that unity in the awnings and waited just even a couple more months, I think that it would be more appropriate to do that and be able to approve the whole thing.
Well, he's replacing awnings that were there for 50 years. So, I mean, those awnings have been there for 50 years, and what was there previously was horrible. It was the old, if any of y'all can remember, the old wooden awnings that used to be on some of those buildings. And I think that you would be very proud of what these awnings are going to look like. They're going to look better than some of the awnings that are already around town. So, you know, but I think he's been working on this. You probably know how long he's been working on trying to get this approved than I do. But it's been a couple of months now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And he's been very patient.
He applied 2 months ago.
February.
Yeah. It's been like a month and a half since he made the application.
Okay.
Has he considered even the matching grants for the facade grants that are available?
He doesn't want to take any money from the city. You know, he said he can afford to put it up. You know, there are people who probably could use that money more than he could on doing something, but he would just like to get this approved because one of the problems is that the sun beats down on that glass, and some of those windows there are old glass, and he's already had one window crack all the way in half because of the heat of the sun. And we're starting to get into the summer months when it's going to really be hot, and it could possibly crack some of the other glass that's really old glass. So that's some of his urgency also.
Is it possible for him to get together with the other people on that so that if they were to change it and do it consistent with the same type of thing so that it shows some kind of, in other words, there should be some kind of unity in the whole thing to keep with the uniqueness and the ambience of what Villa Rica wants to become on Main Street. To have his idea of the awning, because the others are there, does not necessarily mean that they all have to stay there. We could change them all, and if he doesn't want to take the money, perhaps the others do want to be part of a facade grant. But it should have, it should be the same. It should not be one awning this way and one awning that way, in my opinion. I don't think that it looks good.
Well, you would have to change just about every awning in downtown Villa Rica.
Exactly.
With respect,
But it would also be in keeping with the historical background of
Well,
that.
here, if I may, with respect, I feel for Mr. Camp in his position that he would like to get this done quickly and as cost effectively as he can. But just because another business has what is not correct for the historic district, because many, many years ago, 50 years ago, or however long it was for these different businesses, or even his previous one 50 years ago, just because that didn't fit the standard doesn't mean that we can go, oh, well, let's throw the standard in the trash. Because we have to start somewhere. And in my opinion, if we don't start now with this one and the next one, we'll just keep doing the same thing over and over, and we'll have the same problem over and over.
I'm thinking that. Did you read the state law there?
Yes.
I also have an opinion on this one. And I
kind of like the idea of getting awnings in place. And the standard that we're kind of or that Mr. Campus is kind of looking at here seems to be pretty consistent with some of the other buildings on this side of the street. It looks very, very similar. I thought it was, kind of attractive. I do need to study the standards a little bit more, but unless we're going to go to each one of these companies and businesses and say, hey, you have to come up to standard now, then,
The general rule of thumb is that when the ordinance took effect in 2008, okay, that going forward, the changes would have to be adhered to.
Right.
The parties that had already had existing structures were, of course, grandfathered. If there's a change to the material, change to the structure, then they're going to have to comply with the train. Train breakover. Sorry. That you're going to have to comply with the existing code of today. The OCGA, while it has in the third word of paragraph B of code section 44-10-28 of code section as written in 2010, says B, the commission shall. Well, that doesn't mean that we got a gun to our head and we have to do this, because if we go on in the sentence, it says if the commission, meaning the commission, finds that proposed material change in appearance would not have a substantial effect on the aesthetic, historical, architectural significance and value of the historic property or the historic district. So we're not asking not asking the applicant to go to aluminum and glass. We're stating that you stay in, period, and you use appropriate materials. Now, while the other applicants, while other businesses in the downtown area have chosen to do a form of compliance and have put canvas type awnings up and the materials have faded, they may have skimped on the materials and did not get a good bang for their buck. They also, the materials may be reaching the end of their useful life and need to be either cleaned or revitalized or replaced. So while we're not in the upkeep department per se, we are in the approval for change. And we like to see it going forward. If this building that we are in, administration building in the police department, were to have another major overhaul and renovation on its exterior, the roof would then have to come into compliance with the code of 2008 as written. Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm just.
And I spoke with the Whites, and in honesty, I spoke with the Whites who own the Jack White owned his furniture TV store and whatever else that was there. I came along too late to really buy there to be a customer of his. But I asked, when did you put the particular awning that you have up now, which is aluminum, and green, and I believe is what your client wishes to have as the material and type of structure up. I asked both Mr. and Mrs. White, well, when did you have that put up? And they thought back in the 80s. And I think it was the 80s. Yeah. But we kind of went along and kind of this, but it was like 70s, 80s, something like that. And so, yeah, here again, too, it's been a long time. Looks good, as far as wear and tear is gone, but, does it meet where we're going? No. So, and hopefully nothing, seriously, we hope nothing ever happens to it.
But
But if there is, then they'll have to comply with
what are
it.
you going to go to then? I mean, I guess I don't know what he would say. My question would be, is
Okay.
like, what are you going to? Which I
Metal awnings shall be replaced, on metal awnings be replaced with canvas or fabric awnings of a matte finish and coordinate with the rest of the district.
So you want,
They should
You,
be,
you can have it'll be a metal framing, metal or aluminum
you
framing.
want the material awnings?
Yes.
Well,
with canvas or fabric awning.
I would leave, if it was me, I would leave them off because I have those things on my house and after a few years, they look horrible. And I have good quality ones.
Again, we
You
look,
know, but that's just my opinion.
okay, but here again, we look across the street at the business known as Uppercut. And we see those very same shades, and they've been on over 15 years, and they look quite good. So here again, it's about the material that you invest in on the front side of the construction project.
And do the other people who are in the same block, are they in agreement with the color that he
He owns
wants?
the whole block.
He owns that whole,
That's his, he owns
Yeah.
everything.
So that all of them would be the same color?
It would be the same color. That's why I said he wanted you to understand that it would be consistent for the whole block, not just one building.
And the neutral colors that we want to have according to the Billerica Historical,
I'm sorry.
according to the Billerica Historical guidelines, keeping those neutral colors. The rest of the buildings would be those neutral light colors with a green,
I
Canvas
honestly don't know
awning.
what color he's using.
okay.
I mean, I can't answer a whole lot of questions. He just asked me to, he just wanted me to emphasize that it would all have a consistent look on that entire block.
The consistency of what he's actually remaking the look of the block. Because you have a brown awning and you have a white awning.
Yeah.
You had myriad sign placements up and down, so from a historical point of view, our recommendations are totally based upon trying to replicate product that, how the building was built in that time frame, for lack of a better term, okay? And I was actually on the board at the time that we adopted these resolutions. Okay?
I remember.
You were the clerk.
Yeah. One of the things that I would like our commission to realize is two things, that this gentleman can appeal this very easily and move this on up the line.
Are y'all through with me?
No, hang
Oh,
on, just a
you're not
second, I got one question. The thing that I'm supporting is always the beautification of buildings, and that's what he's attempting to do here, okay? The point of disagreement is whether we use a fabric awning with an aluminum end structure, or we use a metal aluminum end structure with a metal wrap to it, A or B, all right? We're gonna put this to a vote this evening, but I would like to tell and go on record that I am supporting beautification of our downtown. And I think this is truly the effort here.
You know I
100%.
am.
I know you are, Barbara. So I think our disagreement is pushing the fabric over maybe other product, trying to replicate a look, for lack of a better term. And I know that future boards will probably fight over this particular observation, for lack of a better term. I've restored a lot of historical buildings here in the South, and it goes in many different directions. But the initial design was trying to make the building look like it did when it was new, or trying to recreate that 20s, 30s look here in downtown building. Is my intent, my understanding of the board's intent. So with that, is there any other further questions for Barbara?
I think the original was wood
Yeah.
on that building.
No, we can move forward from that.
But,
Well, they didn't actually have aluminum
I know.
back in the 1830s,
it's
or the 1890s. They did.
whether you're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, or Duluth, Minnesota, or you're in Mobile, Alabama, you have this question on many small cities, particularly on small buildings with an awning look. So, but I would like to go again on record and at least thanking Mr. Camp for making the effort to beautify downtown Billerica. And let's let this board kind of commence with some further discussion here, and we'll take it up for a vote. Okay, thank you.
I appreciate what y'all did.
Thank you.
At this time, I believe it's appropriate to open for discussion on the board members. I'd like to hear the pros and the cons of this, and then we'll put this to a vote. So we'd like to start, Ken, you
sides of the story. I see that we want to keep it historical and on point. I see that that would not go back to the 20s and 30s as we've been discussing here. I do also see that there is a great deal of, excuse me, not a great deal, there are many other buildings that are in this same style, so to speak. So I don't think it would be totally inappropriate, but I don't think it would be totally appropriate either. That there's pros and cons to both sides. So in some form, it would give a bit of cohesiveness. And I don't know. I'm kind of stuck right in the middle right now.
All right.
I need to think on it a little bit.
I hold to my idea that we have to start somewhere. And if we, while I do agree it will make the street and the facade look better than it did before the storm blew it away, eventually we're going to have to say this is the standard and we stick to it. Because the con is that the guy down the street, his awning blows off and he goes, well, you gave it to Rex. Why don't you give it to me? That's,
Observation.
yeah.
Good point.
I concur, and I ask that we follow along with the staff recommendations of the approval with conditions, and that we stress and highly stress non-metallic covering. And if there's something else that is available, then fine. We're definitely open for suggestion. But beautification is the issue, and moving forward is also our issue too.
And I agree with that, yes. The staff recommendations with changes, keeping in mind that we do have an ongoing commission and consultants dealing with historic preservation. And I think that we need to make sure that everything is together and cohesive.
Excuse me, I do have one further comment. The other buildings that are in our downtown historical district that look similar to what Mr. Camp is espousing, could we speak with them and encourage them to move forward with the facade grant, perhaps, and see if they would come to compliance, so to speak? Is that an option?
I think Mr. Camp is going to be a trend center, whether he likes to be or not, for lack of a better term. The look that he has, we're not arguing with the dimension, we're not arguing with the angle. I'm sure the color can be agreed to. The interior framing is going to be almost the same whether you use metal or fabric. It's really the actual cover of the awning itself, for lack of a better term.
I understand, but what I was saying, the other
businesses.
Right.
that are currently have something similar to what Mr. Camp is proposing,
Right.
could we encourage them to perhaps take
Oh, I see.
advantage of the facade grant and come into compliance?
But I've gone to DDA, and I'm on record at DDA about talking about the facade grants on our behalf, as well as, and I don't represent the Revenue Department at all by any stretch, but also brought up the fact that there are tax incentives available for historic preservation. And in fact, there are two in particular. And if they would just get into a little bit of a bidding system to get into the tax credits, but it's been brought to their attention, and the members of DDA were kind of like, well, so what? Or we know about that, so what? So the attitude is it's not a high priority. I wish we could make it more of a high priority.
Kim, I'd like to revisit what you said. Are you saying that we, and I'm a little confused, that we pushed Mr. Camp to utilize the fabric covering on
No.
his? Or we're
Oh,
not?
yes.
Okay,
But encourage the next block down
right,
that has something similar to what he's looking at now.
right.
The next block down where the clothing boutique is, and the antiques boutique, and the home decor and all that, they all have this type of facade, except for one store, which we're going to leave nameless. But you all know who I'm talking about. But the rest of the stores down through that next block are very similar to what he's proposing. Perhaps we could encourage some of these businesses to look into the facade grants and bring everybody into.
I think that one of the nicest things that we had was 2 weeks ago when we had an open forum at Golders Park, and the amount of people who were able to have a voice, because each table had a map of downtown of all of Villa Rica, and they were able to put in what they wanted to change, what needed to be preserved, where the green areas were. And by taking 6 different maps with all of our citizens, whether they were businesses or everyone else, having a voice, my remark was that I felt that the city of Villa Rica had just grown up, because for a change, there was communication. I wish that more people had been there to do that, but we do have more meetings coming up that will involve them. By doing that, I think that those who were present were able to actually see how unified they could be, and that when they were taking a look at the presentation of those maps, how many of them had the exact same feelings for the exact same area. And the downtown Main Street was one of the first big priorities for probably 99% of the people who were there, making sure that everything did have some kind of unity to it, to preserve the uniqueness and the ambiance that they would like to have in Villa Rica. And so, with that in mind, I do know that we are well on our way to preserving that and having more people have a voice. And if we have more people attend those, and they realize that they have a voice, that would do exactly what you're saying, is that we're looking at having that whole thing together.
Well, this has been an excellent discussion and a good representation from Ms. Camp. Thank you, Barbara. Appreciate it. I'd like at this time for a motion to be put aboard based on the information that was presented by Mr. Camp. And I know we could go in 20 different directions, but I think we have to go on the fact that this is a awning and dimension we agree with. I don't think we disagree with the color, but we are pushing for a fabric awning up there in support. If they kind of have a motion along those lines.
I make a motion that we approve his application with staff recommendations to change from metal to fabric awning.
I second. You've swayed me.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. All right, on to agenda number 2 here.
Okay, so the next one that we have is by the applicant Southern Homes and Land. They leased the building located at 228 West Montgomery Street, located in the land lot 161 of the 6th District in Carroll County. They are proposing to add new canvas awnings to the facade. These awnings would be either black or red. The applicant is also requesting to paint the outside of the building gray with black trim and to add metal sconces by the main door. Now, it only consists of 228 West Montgomery Street. I know that the proposal that they submitted is a little misleading. It's only the building that's on the right side of the page. The one that's on the left, they just added in, I guess, to kind of go along with it.
Is this the building?
Yes, it's just that one that's on that front page of the staff report. Approval with conditions is the staff recommendation. Awnings to be canvas or fabric with matte finish and with colors to coordinate with the rest of the district per the Unified Development Code, Chapter 5, Section 5.09C2. Building colors should include light earth tones which complement existing color scheme found on the block per the Commercial Design Standards, Chapter 6, Section K1. Coach lanterns or metal sconces should be avoided as they are inappropriate elements for the downtown commercial district per the Commercial Design Standards, Chapter 6, Section B8. The applicant was notified to be here tonight. She was not able to make it, nor was a representative. So that would leave for you guys to either go ahead and vote or to defer to the next meeting.
I prefer that the applicant appear in person in front of the board. I'd like to make a motion that we defer this to,
So move.
Second. Motion to table.
all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
The last one that we have is for Alicia Van Ellis. She leases the building at 120 West Montgomery Street, land lot 161 of the 6th District in Carroll County. The applicant is requesting to add a sign to the facade of the building. The sign will read Adorable Pet Day Spa. Adorable Pet will be white vinyl lettering measuring 22 inches in height. Day Spa will be black vinyl lettering measuring 11 inches in height. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. The sign must meet the requirements as written in the Table 9-1 of the Unified Development Code. Maximum sign area 300 square feet or 10% of the wall face of premises to which sign relates, whichever is less on each street facing the wall. Each street facing wall. Per the good design, commercial design standards, Chapter 6, Section M2-5, as listed below. This applicant was also notified to be here today, and she was not able to, nor was a representative.
Again, I think it's the board's standard
Mhm.
to have a representative discuss their project. and purpose. So at this time, I'd like to defer.
Motion to table.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right. Looks like we've got the presentation for the 507 Main Street project coming back around here. We'll go past that. The historical preservation training. I saw that information. Can you brief us a little bit more on that as far as?
I knew that last time y'all wanted a little more information of when this would take place. Since the last meeting, they have actually posted dates. The historic preservation training will be August 14th on Tuesday of that month. We have $1,500 in the budget for training for the commissioners this year, so it's a little tight. I would just need to know who all would want to go and figure out how we can manage it.
I would recommend that at your earliest convenience, let's get our notification up to who's can go and be available to see how far the money goes for application and housing.
Yes. If I can just get an idea of how many would like to go by the beginning of next week or now if you already know. Okay. Okay, all five. Everyone wants to go.
Can
So
you get
we'll
off-
see
can you get
how we
off
can
work?
fit it into the budget, see how we can work the numbers and crunch everything down. The budget got, I believe, cut because of the,
Vacancies that we had.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's that.
Trust me, next year going forward, we'll have.
Plenty.
Okay.
Well, my question is, do we really need to go all 4 days? I don't.
It was
So
just the one
I think
day.
it's just Tuesday, isn't it?
Yes, it's just Tuesday on
Yeah.
August 14th. That's when they go over historic preservation.
Okay.
And that would be beneficial.
Yeah, some of us might be able to fund the trip themselves, so let's just see how far the money goes.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is it possible for the city to have a car that would allow us all to travel in the same one, which would save transportation? And as long as it's paying for the actual training that's on there and not any of the other things that are on there as far as the tours and stuff, if that would keep the cost down, because if we had the one car to take all of us, then it wouldn't be using the transportation and the gas for several cars. And it's that if we could do that,
We'll look into it and get back with you guys with an update.
If nothing else, I have a van that carries 7, so we'll be good.
Don't volunteer.
Don't volunteer.
Don't volunteer.
Either way, transportation will be covered and you would
Yeah.
be reimbursed for that.
Well, I'd like to just extend, there, right now, you're looking for some resumes from the board right now, I've seen that.
Yes.
Okay, and that's due by May 15th.
If I could have it by the end of the week, that would be great.
And so it require, you like it from all the board members, is it?
I already received it from Nancy, Larry, and Renee. I just need it from a Kim and you. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I've been busy.
No, it's okay. As long as I can get them by the end of the week, I can get everything together and have everything submitted when it's supposed to on the 15th.
Give it to you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Well, very good. Thank you very much for that report. We're now moving on to the election of officers. And at this time, we have some very good people on this board. And I think that I've been in this chair here for too long. So I'd like to try to make sure that we redefine the leadership here of the commission tonight. And so I'd like to open the floor for nominations.
I'd like to nominate Nancy Mims for chairman.
There's a motion for Nancy. May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a second? Is there any other nominations? All right. Then I'd like to close the nominations and let's take a vote. All those in favor of Nancy being our new chairperson for the Historical Commission, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? Nancy, you're the new chairman.
Congratulations.
Do it.
Right now, is there any other positions that we need to nominate? for
The vice chair.
Historical Commission? The vice chair?
Vice chair.
Vice chair, too.
Okay. All right, the board is open, the table's open for the nominations for the vice chair. I'd like to nominate Larry.
Nominate Larry. Continue on as vice chair.
In favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right. Well, I believe that, is there any other nominations for vice chair?
We've already voted.
I believe that
We've already
we now
voted.
have 2 positions filled. Is there any other positions that need to be filled at this time? All right. Well, very, very good. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. This has been a great meeting, great discussion, and I'm looking forward to the future.
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to adjourn and have a motion to adjourn the
Adjourn.
City of Billerica Historical Preservation Committee.
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Gotcha.